When it comes to former NBA players turned commentators, in my view, Tim Legler is the best out of all of them. And I must have missed this video of Tim Legler really breaking down LeBron versus Jordan in the simplest terms.
See, I think LeBron is locked in to 2. He's not going to win a championship and leapfrog Michael Jordan. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
No matter what he does.
Truthfully, in people's eyes, and I'm not saying this does not, but in people's eyes, he's not going to win 2 more.
Correct.
And leapfrog Michael Jordan.
Correct.
Because everybody's always going to bring up the losses without any context.
Yeah, I just think that's the way it's going to be for him. So he's locked in at 2, and he's not going to get caught. I don't.
That's what I think too.
He's not getting caught like from behind. Like, wait, what happened now? Third? Yeah. What happened here? That's not going to happen either. That's why I think he's kind of locked in. His legacy's very cemented, and this will be great. And maybe.
So Tim right there is definitely spot on, and he understands Michael Jordan's entire body of work. That resume is as close as you get to perfection for an NBA player, and it doesn't hurt Jordan also. Verifiably is the highest peak of all time from the late 80s, early 90s, really 88 to 93. As during that point, he was by far the best offensive player in the NBA, and at worst, a top 10 defender, and most years top 5. And when it comes to LeBron being locked in behind Jordan, I couldn't agree more. As even passing Kareem in points to the all-time record, that didn't move the needle on him being better or greater than Jordan. And for the fans who say LeBron passing Kareem in points somehow made him the greatest of all time, better than Jordan, I'd ask you guys this. How was Kareem for roughly 30 years sitting there with that record, having 6 championships, 6 MVPs, and not one of you guys said Kareem was better than Jordan or the greatest player of all time? And the edge LeBron has on Jordan is total stat numbers and longevity. As the overall debate of who is greater, that was settled years ago after numerous playoff flameouts and finals losses. Now, speaking of finals losses, JJ Redick says those losses, quote, have no context. And look, some of LeBron's finals losses, they weren't all on him. And in some of those series, despite losing, he played pretty well. But still, losing is losing, and winning is the ultimate goal. And if Michael Jordan is the bar, the standard, and LeBron trying to leapfrog that, you can't have a final series like 2011. As for Jordan's career, there's not a playoff series, a final series, where he played that bad overall, cost his team the series, had multiple fourth quarter disappearing acts, and even had one game scoring 8 points. When it comes to adding context to losses, you can do that all day long till you're blue in the face. But looking at 2010, 2011, among some other series, LeBron numerous times was the sole reason his team lost in the playoffs, compared to Jordan, who never had that happen a single time in his career.
I don't know that whether there's an asterisk next to any championship. I personally don't believe there is. I haven't heard a compelling enough case. But with LeBron, there's always that. I think in 16, they bring up the Draymond thing. You know, the haters are. He won the 2020 is a fluke win because it was the bubble.
Now, stopping it right there, this clip is vital to this video. As Redick made a couple of points I want you guys to remember. First off, Redick claims off the bat he does not believe championships have an asterisk, and to this point hasn't heard a valid argument as to why they would. Secondly, he'll call you a quote-unquote hater if you bring up Draymond being suspended in the 2016 finals. And when it comes to the 2020 bubble, ignores all the outlying circumstances around that series. Keep those 3 things in mind, and specifically the first one, where Redick said championships in any year do not have asterisks.
The context of the other, 5 losses, right? We go 07. He dragged that team to the finals. That Pistons team that they beat
that starting
were
lineup.
so good.
Yeah, look at the starting lineup he was playing with in Cleveland.
They were so good.
Yeah.
So then you have 11, you have 14. That Spurs team. Tell me at that point in time, with the way they played that series, who's beating that basketball team? It was a great team. Coming out for revenge, all that stuff. 15, Love gets hurt in the first round. Kyrie gets hurt, breaks his kneecap, so they're playing, with Matthew Dellavedova chasing stuff around. They don't really have an offense. Mozgov is starting that series. Like, it's just whatever, and then he has the 2 years against fucking KD and Steph and the Warriors. So it's like I don't buy any of this like asterisk, like, oh, we should. I think there's asterisks every season.
Now, stopping it right there, a little bit of a lengthy clip, but right there at the end, that's what I wanted you guys to catch. As in less than 2 minutes, Redick went from saying championships when defending LeBron James do not have asterisks to now making excuses for LeBron James, says every championship has an asterisk. Isn't that funny how it works? When defending LeBron's losses, there's tons of context, there's asterisks, and there's a lot of sidebars. But when it comes to LeBron's championships, if you mention any context, any injuries, oh, nope, cut it off, nope. Those titles are won fair and square, no excuses. Funny how that works. And I think Redick right here kind of in real time realized he was contradicting himself from less than 2 minutes ago. And that's why at the very end, he switched it up very quickly to that all championships have an asterisk. Look, there's context both ways, injuries both ways. Take it for what it is, but you can't have one and then ignore the other. And on a personal level, I did find it pretty funny. When Redick was talking about LeBron's finals losses, for 4 out of the 5 series, he had some side comments, some sidebars, going into minor detail. But we're looking at 2011, it was, 2011, he lost, move on. That's pretty telling right there. As again, for Michael Jordan in his career, you can't point to a single series where he averaged 18 points per game, got torched by a role player, and was a third fiddle on his own team.
Whatever. And then like Steph and KD, for whatever reason, well, I know the reason, but they get discredited for 17 and 18 because no one was going to beat that fucking team. I think truthfully, I think you put those two teams against any team in NBA history and they're probably winning a 7-game series.
I agree with that.
And that's not a knock on the Bulls. Like I'll say that's probably the second best team of all time, right?
So looking at this clip right here, I agree with half of it. As when it comes to 2017 Warriors, that team verifiably is one of the greatest teams of all time. But looking at the post-2017 Warriors in 2018, I don't think that team was unbeatable in some overpowering juggernaut. As looking at the Western Conference, Houston in the West Finals, they were up 3-2 on them and forced a Game 7. And if you want to add some Redick context, CP3 in that series got hurt for the final 2 games. I really don't want to hear the 2018 Warriors were just some unbeatable team that no one could stop. Because James Harden, yes, James Harden nearly beat them. Put a prime Jordan, prime Pippen, take your pick of Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman, whoever you want. I think there's numerous Bulls teams that could have beat the 2018 Warriors. Because even James Harden, an historic playoff choker, nearly did it himself. And the same goes with the 2014 Spurs and 2016 Warriors. Of course, great teams, great chemistry, with stellar coaching. But as playoff teams, I wouldn't really call them juggernauts like the 0-1 Lakers. As looking at the 2014 Spurs, that team quite literally was a team. There was no superstar on that roster. And the first round versus the Mavericks, many forget they were pushed to 7 games and were actually down 2-1 in that series. And the West Finals were taken to 6 games by the Oklahoma City Thunder. And pretty embarrassing to note, the LaMarcus Aldridge Blazers, even they got 1 game off the Spurs in the second round. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but it kind of shows the Eastern Conference in this era was much, much weaker than the West. And of course, look at the 2016 Warriors, a great team who won 73 games. But how can the quote-unquote greatest team of all time get down 3-1 versus the OKC Thunder? If Kevin Durant and Westbrook really going solo can do that, why couldn't the 92 Bulls, 96 Bulls beat the 2016 Warriors? I mean, in the playoffs, that team went 15-9 and were far from a juggernaut.
when we talk about this stuff. If a guy wins a championship, a guy wins a championship. However he had to do it that way. And LeBron, for whatever reason specifically, well, he had to do it with D-Wade and well, guess what? Larry had to do it with Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish. And Magic had to do it with Kareem and James Worthy. And Bill Russell had to do it with John Havlicek and Bob Cousy and Sam Jones and Bailey Howell.
Now, this right here is the creme de la creme of being disingenuous. As acting like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Bill Russell, them winning championships having teammate help is equivalent to LeBron's teammate help in his championships. It's beyond a slimy tactic. As even Redick knows, people don't criticize LeBron James for having great teammates. What they criticize him for is team hopping and switching teams every 4 to 5 years. And out of those guys he listed, Bird, Magic, Russell, those guys all won championships with the team that drafted them. And to go full circle at this point looking at Jordan, him winning 6 championships in 8 years with the exact same team and a roster that got progressively older, that will till the end of time be infinitely more impressive than the guy who changes teams every 4 to 5 years and exhausts his rosters.
This is sort of, to the point of the Giannis comments from last week. Like Bron losing to those teams, that season is a success. Like get those Cavs teams in 17, like that was like objectively a successful season, even if you don't have a championship. And so that does feel like when you're looking at the whole body of work, it's not just like, oh, championship or this is an L.
So cutting this guy off right here, this kind of participation trophy mentality, I absolutely despise. As finishing second in the NBA Finals, it's no triumph or great accomplishment. Ask the 2013 Spurs, 2010 Celtics, even 2016 Warriors, if after they lost in the finals in a crucial Game 7, they felt triumphant for just making the finals and getting it to a Game 7. Of course they didn't. They were pissed they lost the championship because second place doesn't get a silver medal.
He's not going to pass him. For me, in my mind, He's just not. And it's not even about winning rings at this point. It's just about the player. I played against that guy. I've watched this guy a lot. It's Jordan. That's why I say, for me, he's cemented where he is. If you talk about historical ranks, obviously he can still win more rings. Who knows how long he's going to play?
So that right there is a pretty good ball in this segment. And again, I think Tim Legler, one of the best analysts out there. I could have gone a little bit more in depth with Redick. He told some more half-baked truths about the 07 Pistons, LeBron's help, them being a great team. I could have gone really in depth. But at this point, I've done enough damage, and that's the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.